The rumors are true. I am back with, yes, another Prixel video. I'm obsessed. In a previous Prixel video, I was trying different styles to see how detailed I wanted to work with the Prixel. And now I want to try to create backgrounds using the Prixel. So let's get into it. If you watch the sketchbook spread video where I created a sketchbook spread using the Prixel, you learn that I don't really work well when it comes to sketching out ideas for the Prixel. I find that with the limitations of the pieces and shapes that it's just easier to jump into creating a piece with a general idea of what I want to do. And because I'm working so small, I kind of feel like just jumping into it. And we are starting off with a big light blue square as our canvas. I walked away to wipe the Prixel off at the sink, and when I came back, I found my cat Ham had jumped on my desk to scavenge for any snacks or crumbs I left behind. Unfortunately for him, I am working on art, so he walked away with nothing. And I came back to this criminal footage of him on my desk where he shouldn't be. Okay, back to the art. Okay, once we had our base of our blue sky, it was time to start adding features. I really like a good mountainscape, so I thought it'd be really fun to create a couple of mountains in this piece. One of them in the background fading from a blue ink to no ink at all. So it kind of just fades into nothingness that sort of looks like it could be fog or mist or clouds that are starting to partially hide this mountain in the background and make it look like it's floating. I think it turned out really successful. The fade from pure ink to nothing turned out really nice. I'm really getting a hang of working with ink pads. It is definitely not something I am used to doing. I am learning and having a lot of fun with it. So we have our mountain fading off into the background, and now we need a foreground mountain. I want this mountain to be closer to your viewpoint. I want it to be bigger than our previous mountain, and I wanted to overlap the smaller mountain. This mountain is going to have a little bit more color, so I started off with green ink on the top and faded it down to the dark blue. And yes, you can see the mountain behind it through it because this is a clear ink, and I could have, yes, designed it to where the mountains didn't overlap, but I really like to lean into the material I'm working with, and I just thought this looked really cool, the way the shapes overlap, how they create a blue-green color. It's sort of abstract. I think it looks really cool. It just adds a little bit more of a visual interest that I find pleasing to my eyeballs. I felt like the sky really needed something up there, so I thought I would add a sun or moon, just a big circle of yellow ink up in the sky. It looks fine. I don't think it really adds a whole lot to it, but it definitely adds something to it. We're definitely getting somewhere with this piece, but I feel like there just needs to be more, and more means my classic 5-year-old V-shaped birds in the background. I also wanted to make sure that adding birds was something I wanted to do, so I printed these birds on tracing paper, put it on top of the piece, made some adjustments on where the birds were placed, added my birds, and there it is. There is our first background piece. I absolutely love this piece, but I'm also quite a sucker for blue and green. What can I say? I love blue and green. For our second background piece, I thought it'd be really cool to take the concept of our first piece and make it bigger, zoom in, and create more details. So it's the same scene, but different. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm also really limiting my colors. As you guys know, I love limiting my color palettes when working with illustrations. In these pieces, I am focusing on blues and greens, really cool colors. And on our next set of illustrations, I'm actually gonna be working with warmer colors. How exciting. Isn't it just so exciting art? So I started off with a much larger block of a blue background sky. I had to print this in 2 pieces because there was just a very large place to fill in. I'm also going to be adding a frame to this piece later too, because I just find that frames when working with the Prixel are really cute and I like them. Why am I adding the frame at the end instead of right away? I honestly just thought the frame was going to end up maybe overlapping some of the space despite me not even printing in the area that the frame was going to be. Look, we don't question my logic because there is none. Okay, as usual, we are starting off with our once again distant mountain. It's pretty much the same size and shape as before, just in the corner with a more decorative corner piece. So far our steps are the same as before. And then it was time to add our larger mountain, which again, it was pretty much the same as before. It was just a larger mountain with a bigger gradient fade. I did want to make sure that it was overlapping where I wanted it to overlap with the other mountain, so I did a quick test print on tracing paper, liked the way it looked, and got to printing. That green to blue gradient, I can't get over it. I just love green and blue, what can I say? If you thought we had a huge blank sky area earlier, we definitely have a big blank sky area to fill in this time, and I thought it would be really cute to put a dragon in the sky. Originally, our previous piece was supposed to be birds in the sky, but now that we have a dragon, and I will admit this was an idea that came from my Twitch stream, but instead of the previous piece having birds in the sky, maybe those are actually dragons, and now that we've zoomed in on our background piece, we can see it's a dragon. Look at this little guy. He's pretty goofy looking. He's got quite the smile, the skinniest legs you've ever seen, and he's just enjoying life flying through the mountains. We once again added our sun to the sky, and I also felt like our big mountain needed more details. Because we are zoomed in on this mountain, now we can actually see the individual trees on the mountain. These trees are so simple, but I think they're so cute. It's literally just two triangles on top of each other with a line underneath for the, what's it called? It's a trunk? I almost said stem. Is a tree trunk just a big, thick stem? Or does bark have, you know what, we're not gonna go into it. Every single video I end up questioning things and Googling things, and now I'm not even talking about the art. Where am I even in the art? Right, I once again designed the trees to be flipped the wrong way, so let's pretend that didn't happen. And look how cute these trees turned out. They're so simple, two triangles and a stick. If you noticed in our previous piece, I did not use any black ink at all, and I felt like this piece really benefited from having some dark pieces in there. The dragon, the stems of the trees, and the border just brought it all together. And I think this piece is really cute. It really goes along with our first piece. It's different yet the same. I love the colors. The frame is cute. Where's this little dragon off to, and why is he so happy? Moving on to our second set of illustrations, this is going to be our warm color illustrations. And I gotta say right away, I really struggled with this piece. I did half of this piece with a yellow sky and orange ground, and I just didn't like it. The vibes were completely off. So I stopped recording, went to sleep, woke up the next morning with a pink sky, and oh my goodness. I don't know if it's just because the color of this pink ink is just really nice, but it's great and I love it. Our previous sky was just a solid block of blue, and I really wanted to add some clouds this time because I love putting clouds in my art, and these pieces perfectly match my style of clouds, so I had to do it. And because our previous piece had mountains, I wanted to do a different landscape, and I really struggled again to come up with what landscape I wanted to create. At first I was thinking, do I want to do the ocean? But I was really set on creating a little house next to this hill with smoke coming out of a chimney, so that is what I'm going to be making. Again, I was really struggling with the colors for this piece. Having yellow and orange would have made the warm colors really easy to work with, but the orange was just a little too obnoxious for me, and yellow's just a little too light. So I decided to incorporate the purple, which is a little bit on the cool side, but I mixed it with red to create the house. And then for the smoke, I added just a little bit of purple that again faded to red. And I think that really solved it. I do think that there maybe isn't enough contrast in this piece. The red and pink is very similar, so it's not quite as successful as our blue and green piece, but I do think it's very cute. And for our finishing details, I wanted to think about our previous piece, how we thought we had birds that turned into dragons. So I added texture in the grass. Is it texture of the grass, or is it, I don't know, worms coming out of the grass? I guess we'll just have to find out in our zoomed in piece. Because we added the frame last on our previous piece, I thought maybe we could start with our frame this time and see if it made lining things up easier. Spoiler alert, it was so much easier to do the frame first. Don't know what I was thinking the first time when I did the frame last. It was very satisfying adding it at the end, but as the person creating the art, definitely more beneficial to start with it. I also wanted to design a little bit of a different shaped frame so the corners bend in a different way than the other ones. You know, we're just trying to mix things up, keep it funky and fresh. So once I had my frame, it was time to add our background color. And because I was working larger, I was able to play around with more clouds. You'll also notice that with the previous piece, I created the large sky background with a left and right combination, but this time I'm creating the sky with a top and bottom combination. This is just because of the way the clouds work. The clouds are stretching across horizontally, so it was easier to create that block of sky and then create the lower block of sky. It's a small detail, but I just find it interesting to see how differently I approach the sky just depending on if I add clouds or not. After our sky was complete, we added our little flat land with our hill to the side. Nothing special. I was thinking about creating a second hill behind it that was a little bit at a fade, similar to the way I did the mountains, but it just wasn't turning out, so I cut it out altogether. We don't need to see that failure. Adding the house was basically the same process as before, just a little bit bigger. Once I saw the size difference between the two houses though, I kind of wish that our previous house was just one single little square, like super duper tiny. I say that, but I know the chimney would look real goofy being the same size. So in theory, it sounds great. In practice, it probably wouldn't have turned out, but I just feel like the two house sizes between the two pieces aren't as different and big as I would like them to be. So this piece is definitely not as zoomed in as our mountain piece was. Just a little zoomed in. And then it was time to add the smoke coming out of the chimney. And the smoke was my favorite part. I really enjoyed adding the smoke to our small house. And it was even more fun creating the smoke in our larger house because you could get more detailed with the smoke. I absolutely love some of these curved, smaller pieces that create this really nice flowing effect with the Prixel. And then adding all of the little circles and big circles around it. It just really reminded me of the way I personally would draw smoke. So it was very satisfying. I love it. And then it was time to add our mystical, magical blades of grass. Nope, those are just giant worms coming out of the ground. I think once again, in theory, I thought this was a cute idea, but there's just something about the contrast I don't think is enough with these colors to really make each individual element of this illustration pop. Maybe I should have made the worms black. Yeah, I think that's it. Definitely should have made the worms black and the grass purple. Oh well, what can I do at this point? I still think both these pieces turned out really cute despite them not being as successful as our previous ones. And I had a lot of fun creating full illustrated background pieces with the Prixel. It was fun. And there it is. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and especially a huge thank you to my patrons for their monthly support. You guys are the best. If you want early access to these videos, secret sketches, live streams, and more, check out the link to my Patreon in the description. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!